Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed, because what you're about to hear isn't just a crime story. It's a warning, a reminder of what happens when cries for help echo in empty hallways, and no one answers. This is the story of the woman the system forgot. It began on a humid August evening in 2016, in a small town outside Louisville, Kentucky. 41-year-old Karen Douglas sat in her apartment, clutching her phone. She had called 911 3 times that week. Each time, she told them the same thing. My ex-husband's outside. He's not supposed to be here. Each time, they told her the same thing too. We'll send a car when we can. But no car came. Not that night. Not the next. Karen wasn't paranoid. She had a restraining order against her ex-husband, David Douglas, a former truck driver with a long record of domestic incidents. For months, he had been stalking her, following her from work, sending her voicemails, breaking into her social media. The restraining order should have kept him away. It didn't. And what happened next would expose one of the most painful examples of systemic neglect in recent history. Karen had moved into apartment 14B just 2 months earlier, trying to start over. Her neighbors described her as kind, quiet, always helping others. But in the weeks leading up to her death, several tenants reported hearing arguments late at night. A man's voice outside her door, followed by her crying. The property manager called police twice to file noise complaints. No one ever came. On August 9th, at 8:37 p.m., Karen called 911 again. This time, the call was recorded in full. Her voice shook. He's back. He's at the door. Please, someone. I have a restraining order. Please hurry. Dispatch logged the call. But there were only 2 patrol cars on duty that night, both already assigned. Her case was marked priority delayed. 23 minutes later, the line went silent. When officers finally arrived nearly an hour later, the hallway was quiet. Her door was locked. No one answered. The officers knocked twice, left a card, and marked the call no contact. What they didn't know was that behind that locked door, Karen Douglas was already gone. Her body was discovered 2 days later by a maintenance worker sent to check a water leak. She was lying beside the couch, her phone inches from her hand. The medical examiner ruled her cause of death as blunt force trauma. David Douglas was arrested the next morning at a truck stop outside Cincinnati. He confessed immediately. She kept calling the cops, he said. They never came. The words cut deeper than any headline could. The Louisville Metro Police Department launched an internal review, revealing what Karen's family would come to call a chain of indifference. Dispatchers had logged 6 calls from her residence in the previous 3 months, each involving threats or stalking behavior. Not one resulted in an arrest or follow-up welfare check. When the public learned the truth, outrage spread. News anchors replayed Karen's final 911 recording over and over, her voice pleading into the void. Commentators debated how such a failure could happen. But inside the department, blame turned into bureaucracy. The 911 supervisor cited limited patrol capacity. The patrol captain cited dispatch misclassification. In the end, no one was fired. No one was charged. But something unexpected happened. A local reporter named Megan Shaw took the case personally. She began digging into archived dispatch records across the state and uncovered a pattern. In a single year, over 1,400 domestic violence-related 911 calls in Kentucky had gone unanswered or significantly delayed. She called it the invisible epidemic. Karen Douglas became the face of it. Megan's reporting sparked a statewide investigation, leading to hearings and new legislation dubbed Karen's Law. It required police departments to treat restraining order violations as emergency-level responses. But even as the law passed, Karen's family struggled to celebrate. Her sister, Danielle, said in an interview, "We didn't want her to become a law. We wanted her to come home." In court, David Douglas pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. He received a 35-year sentence. During sentencing, the judge asked if he had anything to say. He looked up, eyes hollow, and said, "If they'd come when she called, I wouldn't be here." No one in the courtroom breathed. Those words, cruel and self-serving, were also true. The system had failed her long before he ever broke through that door. Months later, The 911 dispatcher who handled her last call resigned. In her resignation letter, she wrote, "I still hear her voice every night. Please hurry. I'll hear it for the rest of my life." A documentary about the case aired the following year. It showed photos of Karen smiling with her kids, her old Facebook posts about cooking and hiking, and finally, the transcript of her final 911 call, framed beside a candle during a vigil. It wasn't just her story. It was every story like hers, every woman who called for help that didn't come in time. Since 2016, Karen's Law has been credited with saving dozens of lives. But the scars of that night still linger. Dispatchers are trained using her case. Officers are reminded daily. Every call could be the one that decides between life and death. In Louisville, there's now a memorial wall dedicated to victims of domestic violence. At the center, engraved in brass, are her words, "I just want to feel safe again." Today, her sister still visits that wall every August, leaving a note and a single sunflower. On it, she writes, "They hear you now." Because even though the system failed Karen Douglas in life, her voice became something no one can ignore in death. It became law. It became a legacy. It became justice. If this story made you think, subscribe, because the next one will make you question everything you thought you knew about safety, silence, and the system meant to protect us.